So in this video we're going to cover lighting and setting up a basic light system. One of the other things I forgot to show you in the previous video is the transparency. So those of you that have characters that their power might be going invisible, you can turn up the transparency of your textures. So if we just select this one, we'll select them all here, and we'll take the transparency to around 50%. You can already see that in the viewport. Makes the eyes look really creepy. But if we turn them all up to roughly around that section there, we can see the character will turn the eyes up as well. And if we do a quick render, you'll see the character is now faded, which is a pretty cool feature. You can almost see the bands going through the body, which is pretty cool. So again, think about your character's power, thinking about your animations later on. You may want to add your character in that way, or create your character in that way. So I'm just going to quickly undo those. Oh, I did the wrong thing there. Push Control X and it covered those. Let's just turn those back off. I think we're almost there now. Just undo. Let's just get the hyper shade up. This will be quicker, and just turn those down. Turn that down. Right. Okay. That's still not done it. Was that not done it? Transparency. There we go. Okay, right. So for now, I'm just going to delete these background images. I no longer need them. What we're going to do is look at a typical studio lighting setup, which is a 3-point light system. So I'm going to get rid of the sculpting tools. I'm going to go to Create Lights. I'm just going to bring this pop-out menu. So we've looked in lessons at different lights. We focus on ambient light, which adds a equal amount of light to every direction in the scene. So you can see this little dot here is the light. It always starts at 0, 0, 0. So if you can't see it, once you've created it, push W, which will bring up the translate tool, and then you'll be able to move it. So with this icon, what we're going to do is just take off the snap. I'm just going to check the light on. So along the top of the bar here, you will see there's a little light that will show us where the light is and isn't coming from. So you can see here we now have it looks like there's an equal amount of light coming from every direction. This is not the case. Okay, so this is what we can use to create a sort of a daylight or an outdoor scene. So if I click the render button here, you will see the light on the one side is more prevalent than on the other, which already gives us a lot more character within our scene than if we didn't. So I'm going to quickly render this again, and I'm going to show you how to preserve your images so you can change the quality. So by clicking this here, it will save the image, and as you can see now I've got a bar. Okay, so if I just quickly delete that light, everything goes black. But if I render again, we get a natural light attached to our viewpoint. And I mean, again, you can see the difference in that quality and the shadow just from that one piece. So let's save. Let's go back and save this image as well. Okay, so you can even see, just even from the lower poly model, the difference in the shadows. Okay, so I'm going to scroll that down. So the ambient light is pretty cool in terms of creating an outdoor lighting setup, but we're not going to use that today. Another one that we looked at was the point light, I think. No, it wasn't. We didn't look at a point light. So I'm just going to undo that by pushing Control Z. In fact, I'm going to delete it. We looked at spotlight, which does exactly what it says on the tin, so to speak. I think, and it creates a spot. Okay, which we can then move around and navigate. If you want to create a sort of a horror movie, you can use a type image, lighting setup. You can almost, if you've got a villain as well, this could be pretty cool. You can lower that light down as you would in a horror film, and if you get the cone angle, you can make that bigger as well. Okay. But again, then you can change the penumbra, which will create that shadow. If you see we've changed, so we've got a hard edge and a soft edge. So we go to, if it's in the middle, we get the hard edge. But if you go in, you'll see we get that lovely fade in, which is pretty cool. In addition to that, we have area lights that are used for bouncing light around off of objects, so like windows and mirrors. We can set one of these up in front of it, and so it's a really bright light, really intense, as you can see from that. So if we just pull this across, and it gives the illusion of light coming through an area, which can be handy, but we're not going to use that today. Okay, so we can scale that down, but it loses that intensity. So the one we're going to work with is a directional light. Now, a directional light will shine light from every angle in the direction it's facing. So from every point going across every part at this point. So not every angle, sorry, every direction from this point. So this light, although it is only at this point in space, may as well be shining from over here and over here and infinity in any direction that it's facing. And these are lights we're going to use for our 3-point light setup. So a 3-point light uses 3 lights, as you've probably guessed, and I'm going to go to the top view for this. And what it involves is a key light, which has a sort of 100% intensity. Okay, we have so I'm going to duplicate that by pushing Control D. We have what we call our fill light. So I'm going to rename these as well. So we're going to go to the attribute. We're going to go key light. Okay, and this is our fill light. And our fill light complements the main light, so that should be a 0.3. So basically, a shadow is completely dark. But what this does is allow that shadow to be present, but also whilst but still being able to cast a shadow in relation to the main light. So you can sort of see here that you know, we can still see that line for the shadow. We can still see that line going across, but it's not completely blacked out, so we can still see what colour there is there. Okay, so if we're doing film noir, we might skip out the fill light. And we'll reposition these slightly in a second. And finally, the last one is our background light. Okay, our backlight. So we're going to Control D again, push W, and no, well, it's doing this thing again. It's in the last video. Okay, right, 1 second. It's just not going to let me. Okay, it's bugged that one. Right, so no, it's still doing it. Okay, that's really weird. Right, I'm going to have to just reopen this. I'll be back in a sec. Okay, so I've now resolved that issue. So if we get the move tool, and we should have that. No, it didn't duplicate the light, so if we push Control D, it should now have duplicated that light. There we go. Okay, so I don't know why it's lagging so much today. Probably because I'm recording at the same time as doing this. So this one is going to be our background light, or backlight. Let's call it background light for now. So I'm going to reposition these. So the backlight should be facing obviously the back. So I'm going to rotate that around by pushing E. We want it this direction. And our background light should not be at 100, that should be 0.5. And I'm going to change that to 180. Then I'm going to go to Modify and Freeze Transformations. And you of course realise I don't think you can do it with lights. No, so we'll just key that in. No, okay, we'll leave it there. These lights need to be facing 45 degrees in from either angle. So this one is at -30, so let's do -45. You just reposition that there, and this one needs to be at 45. So if we go back to our perspective view now, you can see we have that lovely light setup. Okay. And the one thing that we're going to do is rotate the back. So usually what happens, if I do a render of this now, you will see that some of the shadow on the top of the shoulders, things like that, it's not too bad in this one actually, but sometimes you can't see the detail on the top, or it's blended in with the background, so there's no contrast making it obvious where it is. So if I select this and rotate it down, if I just want to kiss the top, so if we do minus 35, and we'll see how it looks, and you can see the light has now appeared just above the head. And if we get our render view and just save that image by clicking there and then doing another render, you will see the difference. If you look at the top of the heads and the arms, you'll see we now have that lovely white outline that really says where that shaping is, shows us where that shape is, which is cool. So this is the sort of light setup I want you to have on your character, and you may want to play around with low lighting. I'm happy for you to experiment a little bit, but yeah, so experiment with lights, but if you struggle to come up with anything too creative or it looks too messy, then just revert back to this system. Now you can change these lights colour, so you can change the main light to you know, like a yellow, maybe a red, maybe you want to show some intensity within that. You feel like might be a purple as well. So if we feel like there, so if we take that to a purple, and if we take another render of that, let's take a look at how that looks. It can create some really cool atmospheres. I mean, that looks pretty awesome. I quite like that. So again, experiment with those colours, think about your colour wheel, look at colour theory, and get that stuff added in. I think it'd be pretty cool. So the next step will be, so we've got our lights in there. I'm happy with how they're set up with the 3-point lighting setup. I think it's going to be a case now of getting our camera track in ready. So I will see you in the next video.